Let me tell you a story about the baddest dog there ever was. Sneaking food from the fridge, tearing up the garbage. He's a goofy old Dexter the dog. He's a bad Dexter the dog. The baddest pup that there ever was. Seat stealing all day long, howling like a junkyard dog.
Poop. It's all about poop. It's all about poop for people. It's all about poop for our dogs. But today we're going to talk about, it's all about eating poop. And some of the reasons, hello, thank you, yay! Some of the reasons why a dog might eat poop. Some of the things that we can do to try to prevent dogs from eating poop and discourage the behavior. And if you're coming on, yay, I'm live. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, I know that the video quality isn't the best with the camera Facebook thing, and if you hear any chomping down there, Dexter does have a Kong over there he's eating. And I know that it's one of the topics that people want to talk about too, is different ways to stuff Kongs and keep them busy. So we'll do that as well. I do have notes too, to make sure that I really do want to try to cover some of the main points in poop eating. Feel free to comment as we go along. Any of your questions about the topic of dogs eating poop. I will also, as always, go back and read comments later. So if you guys catch this later, or I just can't see them fast enough, I'll go back and check them out. I will, as always, too, do some links, because I did write an article, quoted on some of the articles on eating poop. So, a couple things. First is, if your dog's eating poop, really, if your dog's doing a behavior, I forget who it was, it might have been Priscilla, and it's a new behavior. So someone said that their dog just started eating poop at like age 10, and they've had them, for the whole life. If your dog started a new behavior like eating poop and it never used to before, then the first thing that we always want to do is we do want to head to the vet and make sure everything's okay. Eating dirt. Okay, we'll do that one too. Probably not today though, Elizabeth. Kind of similar things, but a lot of times it has to do with some deficiencies too. So I do want to do a little more research on that too. But some of these tips hopefully will be helpful as well. So, but if your dog's all of a sudden doing a behavior, the first thing I want to do is go to the vet, let them know. Sometimes, we love our vets, but sometimes we do have to encourage them to do a little digging. They'll be like, oh, everything's fine, we check out. But, I would do blood work, I'd do a full physical, depending on what the issue is. I might ask for an ultrasound to see what's going on. Poop eating can deal with the pancreas, so, we might want to do blood work and an ultrasound to check things out, especially with the 10-year-old or 10-and-a-half-year-old. The other thing that, as you probably know, I'm a dog trainer, and I've been a dog trainer for over 20 years, but my advice or my tips aren't gonna work if you don't follow through with them. So, when I might suggest keeping your dog on a leash while you're working through it, we probably really need to keep your dog on a leash so that we can kind of work through it. So we want to make sure that you are following some suggestions, because unfortunately I can't just, and other trainers and vets too, you can't just say do this and you don't do that and the behavior changes or the dog gets better. If you're having your dog and they said, do these rehab exercises and you don't do them, well, they're not going to get better. So anyway, so I think we have some people on, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. But I just want to cover some of the basic reasons why a dog may eat poop. Again, it doesn't mean that this is why your dog's doing it. It's just some of the things to look at, some of the things to rule out. And I will also say that poop eating is a behavior that isn't always changed or fixed very well. Buffering on my computer, switched to my phone. Okay, thanks, Patricia. So this is a really challenging behavior. You know, we might think of it as a pretty easy behavior to fix and change, but it actually tends to be challenging. I do think it's part of it is because it needs to have a really big management plan, because anytime a dog does something that's reinforced, whether it's, you know, eating poop and it tastes good, which, you know, may or may not be the case, but it's self-reinforcing, and so we need to stop that from happening. But the first thing that I always look at when someone, and it's a very common behavior, when someone comes to me about their dog eating poop, is checking that diet. You know, you are what you eat, as everything goes, and if the dog is on a highly processed diet, they're probably not getting as much nutrition as they actually really need, and enzymes are really important because that's what breaks down everything, you know, into the gut, and it be able to use those nutrients. So if we're doing a dry kibble, it's harder to break down. So there's still things, if you're, you know, still using a kibble, that you can do to try to help improve that. But nutrition is one of the big factors. The dog might not be getting everything that they need in their diet. And I know that the one Elizabeth was asking about dirt eating, and that's one of the big things too, is dirt eating tends to be a lot of something nutritional that they're lacking. But also that gut, you know, having that good gut health. So even if you are on a raw fed diet or a fresh fed diet, there's certain things in the gut that need to break down those enzymes. And sometimes the pancreas just isn't doing that with your regular food. So sometimes we need to add some extra things into that. And we'll talk about that at the end when we talk about how to kind of change those things. But nutrition is a big thing. The other thing that I see a lot of for my clients too, because I see a lot of young dogs, is lack of entertainment, you know, lack of physical activity, and they get bored, and they can have a learned behavior too. Where, and I'm gonna, Haru, you know, the little Haru that I see, and not that he's bored or anything, but when he was young, he's only a year old now, but last year when he was just a young pupster, those frozen poopsicles, you know, he just thought it was so neat to grab one of them and they go sliding across, you know, the ice, because it was fun. It was a game. And again, it wasn't that he didn't get a lot of attention or anything, but he was a puppy and things were moving around. But then we throw in, for him, at least when I was there, we throw in the getting my attention, you know, because then I'd be like, ugh, I need to get that poop, you know, get that poop out of there, especially because it was frozen and I was afraid that he was going to choke on it. But so then I would, you know, try to get him. So now he's learned that, you know, he gets this poop, you know, he runs around, and then Tanya comes running around trying to get it away from me. For a normal poop that wasn't, you know, frozen like that, I probably would have just said, okay, I'm going to leave it alone and going to turn around and ignore him so that I'm not giving him that extra attention. But again, that whole concern that I had of it being a, you know, big poop and him swallowing it, I knew that I had to do that. So when we talk about how to fix those behaviors, then that's when we want to talk about like leashes and things like that, so that we don't get into that predicament of, you know, they have something and you're running around trying to chase them, and it happens inside the house too with not just poop. The other thing with behavior issues with eating poop is the other scenario that I see, especially with Cavaliers. A lot of our rescued Cavaliers, especially if they're coming from a puppy mill situation, you know, like our mamas and papas that are staying in those small cages for however long that they've been in the puppy mill, and, you know, they don't want to be next to the poop. Dogs actually don't like poop. Yeah, they only eat the frozen poop. So they don't want it there, so they'll eat it so that they're not stepping in it as much. So it's, you know, I want to kind of keep my little 2x2 clean, so I'm going to eat it so I don't step in it. The other thing with some of our puppy mill dogs with that small area is they're hungry. You know, they're not getting food, and they're like, you know, this is something to eat, so they'll actually eat their poop for some kind of nutrition. And that is one of the reasons why some of the dogs are eating poop, is because, again, if they don't have what they need in their diet, the enzymes that they need, when a dog poops out the poop, it is digested enzymes, so they're getting that back. You know, they're able to kind of get that back into their system by eating the pooped. Same thing with bunny poop. So, one of the reasons why dogs are running around eating bunny poop is, again, when it's pooped out, it's giving them more of the digestive enzymes that their body is needing. Because in general, dogs, they're disgusted by their poop just like we are. They don't want to be with their poop for the most part. That's why crate training works so well with puppies, is because they don't want to poop and sleep in it. But again, with these learned behaviors, sometimes they learn, well, if I have to eat it so I don't step in it, or I have to eat it because I'm hungry. So, they learn that. And I think it was Patricia that did mention earlier about her one dog teaching the other dogs, and it is a learned behavior too, where if you have one poop eater and then the other dogs see them, then you can create other poop eaters too. We actually, when I used to train service dogs, not for poop, but we would teach certain dogs, there would be sometimes when a dog wouldn't learn a task very easily, so we'd bring in another dog that knew that task, and we would have that dog do the behavior, and the other dog would see it, and then we'd go to the other dog that was having difficulty, and then they'd kind of pick it up a lot faster. And there's new studies and things like that training methods that they're doing that for. So if you have one poop eater, they can teach it to the other poop eaters. So if you have that one poop eater, for when we talk about the management, maybe he goes potty by himself. The other thing is, again, the board. So, we can create this by the dogs are bored, they don't have anything to do, so they're out there trying to find, some fun. And dirty yards. So, if a dog, again, with the crate training, they don't want to be next to it. Same thing with their yard. If they have a yard, and depending on the size, it's overflowing with poop, they're gonna be like, okay, well, let's get rid of some of the poop. So they might start eating it to kind of get rid of it. The other scenario that I have seen is when a dog is punished for pooping in the house. Punishment, where we're yelling at, even if it's not physical, yelling at the dog, or, can't believe you did that. Anything that's gonna make that dog upset or anxious doesn't lead well. It usually has backfiring. So if you're saying you're potty training your puppy or your new rescue dog or whatever it is, and you catch it in the act, people are always like, well, if I catch my dog going to the bathroom in the house, should I reprimand it? And my advice is no, that if I catch my dog pooping or peeing or whatever, I'm gonna come on, let's go, kind of rush him outside to go to the bathroom, and then praise for outside to go to the bathroom. I'm not going to say, oh, you pooped in the house, or rub his nose in it or anything like that. Because what happens is, even if we're catching the dog, if you can envision the dog pooping in the house, and you're like, no, your dog's like, oh God, I better not poop either in front of mom or dad, or poop over here. So then sometimes we create that dog to eat it. So I am going to, yes, Elizabeth, yes, I'm going to eat my poop. If I poop in the living room, I'm going to eat it so there's no one knows. And that happens a lot too. They don't even know that their dog's not house trained because the dog's eating their poop. So reprimanding the dog and having stress or anxiety around, pooping and stuff, that can cause a dog to eat their poop. Let's see. Confined too long, again, back to the dogs that are in. I'm guessing anyone who here's watching this, even when I post it on YouTube or something, isn't confining their dog for long lengths of time where they're going to eat their own feces. But, just like the puppy mill dogs, even if they're in their crates for too long, they still might eat their poop to not be able to do it. Suddenly wanted to eat rabbit poop. Never eating rabbit poop before. Just started a couple days ago. I hadn't thought about digestive enzymes. So yeah, and again, I'll go back and read your comments too, and do that. But those are the typical reasons why a dog will eat poop. Again, not everyone's gonna, do X, Y, and Z, so there still might be some other reasons. So things to do to fix or change the behavior. And like I said, and I'll do some links. I was looking online today at the article that I helped with, and then looking at new information, and there's a new study that went in on some poop eating. It was a survey study, about 1,500 people, and you always kind of take those with a grain. I mean, that's helpful, but with a grain of salt too, because what information did they give, and what things did they use. But some of those things we're going to talk about here in a second is, one of the things that always happens a lot is people always want to put a deterrent on it. So like, oh, your dog eats poop, feed them this or feed the other dog that. And most of the time it's, you know, if it's a store-bought item, a lot of times they'll have really crappy stuff in it, like MSG and stuff. But so the theory is the other dog eats that, it puts that food in that item, and then when they poop it out, their poop doesn't taste as good, which can happen. And we'll talk about real foods that can do that too. But if you are looking at a product to put on your other dog's food, again, we always have to look at that ingredient label. And like I said, a lot of times with these type of products, that's really kind of crappy stuff that's in those. So, you know, I think I might have seen one that was an okay ingredient thing, but the thing is it doesn't usually work very well. But it's always worth a try, you know, as long as the ingredients are safe. Real ingredients that I've had so-so, and again, hit or miss, so-so success with, are the one who's getting the poop eaten. So sometimes your dog will poop and they won't eat their poop, but they'll eat their siblings' poop. But so whose poop you're going to put on pineapple, so you can feed them pineapple. So the one that's getting their poops eaten, they would be eating pineapple. You can also try pumpkin, so you can give that dog pumpkin too. And then when they poop it out, it's supposed to taste different and be worse tasting and not as appealing. And again, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And those two ingredients, for me, I always feel fine that they're eating. Pineapple in itself, I'd actually want to give pineapple to the dog who's eating the poop, because the pineapple is a good natural enzyme. So it's one that's going to help produce those natural enzymes that they need. So that's actually one of the foods that I say, let's see if we can add that to their diet. So then that goes to the other thing. If we think that our dog is lacking some of these enzymes that they need, there are, once again, products that we can use. An enzyme, and Dexter's had different powdered enzymes that I've put on his food as well. But again, we want to flip over that ingredient label, you know, see what's inside of it, you know, to make sure everything's okay and everything's kosher. And look it up, you know. 100 times I'll look at, especially things like enzymes and stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. So I'll, you know, look it up. Probiotics and guts, you know, same thing. I have an article about probiotics, because, you know, you flip over that jar and you're like, what is that, you know? So again, we want to do our research. But I did make a list of real foods that are also good to help create those enzymes. And I think you might know me by now that I'm a big rotator. So even if I had a powdered enzyme, so that enzyme that I, you know, have for Dexter, I've probably had 3 different brands that I've used for him over the time. I'm not someone who likes to stick with one brand or one type of product over and over, because I think there's just always risk of, you know, who knows what. But company has an issue with the manufacturing. Well, I've been giving my dog that for, you know, 3 years straight. Well, I'm going to be in much more trouble than if I've kind of rotated that in. But because I want to make sure I hit all the ones. Some of the natural enzymes that you could give your dog, and I rotate. I do happen to rotate these foods into Dexter's food. His food is a DIY raw, and I, for him, make him about 85 to 90% meat, and then the other percent is fruit, vegetables, and greens. So in that mix, I rotate some of these foods in there as well. So pineapple, papaya, mango, honey, bananas, fermented foods. He gets fermented foods quite often. That's actually in our refrigerator, and I rotate those in on about every 3-4 day kind of basis. Kiwi, ginger, kefir, and those are some of the big ones that the dogs can eat. And again, into a rotation, I just rotate those into Dexter's foods. So those are some of the natural things that we can add into the diet if we're thinking that, you know, it has to do with a gut issue, which also probiotics and prebiotics. Again, we can rotate those in with foods. The thing with those for foods is you need a big quantity to kind of get what they need. So it's kind of hard to give them enough of that into the food. But fermented foods are really good with those prebiotics and probiotics as well, and the enzymes. So those are always good things. And I have tried to make it myself with no luck. So, like kitty candy bars. Yeah, so kitty cats. so eating poop isn't just their poop, but kitty cat poop, bunny poop. And remind me, again, I'll go through these notes. I actually have an article specifically on dogs eating cat poop. I remember when I used to train service dogs, I lived, it was this, back then it was this old farmhouse, and I lived upstairs. So even on my day off, I, always had some dog up there with me. And his name was Logan, and he was this big golden retriever, and we had a house cat, Oscar, up there. And Logan, I could tell he had something in his mouth, and I'm like, Logan, what do you got? And open up his mouth, put my hand in there, pull out a turd. So yeah, so turds, yep. And again, even if you find out that your dog was lacking something and his poop eating has diminished, it's unlikely to be foolproof. So some of these things are still going to be managed and monitored, because you don't know, how do I know if he's in the cat box? But again, I have some tips on how to help that cat box thing. So the biggest thing is, so there's two big things for me, and that's clean. So keeping things clean. I know that I'm probably one of the oddballs who only has one dog. So I comment here if anyone does anyone else on this list, on this group here, only have one dog? I'm just curious. But so it's super easy for me because Dexter's, and I don't have a fenced in yard, so whenever I'm out with Dexter, he's on a leash and he's with me, and obviously he poops and I pick it up and we're done. If I were to have a fenced in yard, and if I were to have a second dog, because of how I feel about fenced in yards, about being unsupervised, I don't believe they should be outside unsupervised because of so much things can happen. But I still would be picking it up, so we would be outside going poop, picking it up, because I don't want to step in it. I don't want to hang out in the yard and step in poop. I don't know how many times I've been at clients' house and I'm like stepping in poops and stuff. So again, clean, keeping that yard clean. And then, if you got a bunch of dogs, whether or not you're going out every day or every other day cleaning up the yard, but that's going to be a super helpful incident. Back when I was at the service dog organization, we did have this one yellow lab that came with the director. So, she'd come to work, and when she came to work, all the other dogs who lived there were going outside in the fenced in yard to go do their morning business. So as they are coming out to do their poops, this puppy was going out into the yard. So the dogs are pooping, and this puppy would go right underneath that butt, and it was like a little ice cream thing, they're doing that, and the dog was eating. We're like, oh, you gotta keep the dog inside the house, because that was definitely, and it was steamy because it was cold outside. It was definitely not something that was very pleasant. But picking up will help. But the thing is, if they're gonna eat it right away, then it doesn't matter if you pick up in 20 minutes, because they're going to eat it right after the other dog's pooped. So that's where I'm like, we need to be on a leash. So I would have the poop offender dog on a leash while we went outside to go to the bathroom, so that I can prevent it. So that, again, they're not going to be eating that poop. I can prevent them from eating that poop, put them back into the house, and then if I want them to be playing in the yard, then I'm going to end up going in and picking up all the poop, so that they're not out there, me chasing them down and them eating their poop. You can, if you have a yard, you can also look at having a poop yard. Not that the dogs necessarily won't ever poop in the other part of the yard, but you can kind of, make a little area that's just the poop area, where you can take them out in the morning, big enough so that they can move around. Take them out in the morning, and everyone can, do their business. You can poop. You can maybe even take the pooper dog that wants to eat the poop on his leash, keep it separate. Then he goes there, and then he goes inside the house. Then you can shut that poopy area out, or you can pick up the poopy area so there isn't there. So you don't have the whole yard to try to manage and walk around. Some of them too, when we're going out even for a walk on a leash, they're, someone else who hasn't picked up their poop. They're like, oh, there's someone's poop. So we just have to really keep our eyes on it. Yay, Tanya's got one. Tanya and Tanya both have one dog. But the other thing that Patricia mentioned earlier, which is a really nice idea too, you have to let me know how it works, is they have, and I've used this for dogs that have eaten stuff in the yards, that they're just all they want to do is eat stuff. But Outfox Field Guard, Dexter has one. Before I knew he had SM, I thought before he was diagnosed that he was getting fidgety for the gnats, because the gnats, when we were on vacation, would kind of buzz his head and land on him, and then he'd get all obsessive and stuff. So I thought if he had this on his head, then it'd keep the gnats out of his face, but anyway, it was SM. But anyway, what it is, and I'll put a link onto it. It's this mask that's really soft and it's meshy, and it goes over their head so that they can't eat anything. They can, breathe and pant and do all that kind of stuff, and they can actually see. They can see through it fine, so there's no issues with seeing. But you could always put that on before they go outside, if they're in the yard, to go outside to go potty, so that then again, when they're all outside running around doing their morning business, you're not right on top of that dog, and they won't eat the poop. But my question, Patricia, is if that mask is on, because it's soft, if you have a poop eater, I'm just wondering if he's going to smoosh his face, with that mask and into the poop and try to eat it. I'm just kind of curious if that's going to happen and be a mess. He wouldn't really be able to eat it, so at least you're kind of managing it, but I'm just curious on what, what that would do. I wouldn't use, and she didn't, but, I wouldn't use a muzzle or anything like that. And for those that ever need muzzles for any situation, if the muzzle's going to be on for any length of time, like more than a couple of seconds, you want to have like a basket muzzle so they can breathe and pant and things like that, not the ones that close their face. All right, so, and then if it's an entertainment issue, then we want to make sure that we're entertaining our dogs. So I think, I have Dexter, he's 10, he's my first Cavalier, and I remember when I was looking at Cavaliers, you hear that they're a companion dog, and you hear that they're lap dogs and everything. It's like, okay, so do I have this lap dog who's not going to need any entertainment? And that's a big no-no. Sure, you might get a few Cavaliers that are just like lazy butts and want to lay around and stuff, and especially when they're older, but for the most part, they're spaniels, at least that's what I've seen, and they want to be active, and they want to be busy and things like that. So entertainment. So Dexter's 10. He's got his neurological condition. He's got his heart disease, and he's still just a silly little monkey who likes to get into trouble all the time if he's not entertained. So that's another thing that we can look at doing is a little more entertainment with these dogs. You can also look at patterns too. So think about the situation when your dog is doing the poop eating, and is there a way to kind of break that pattern up? Do I let some of the dogs out at once? If I let my one poop eater out, and then maybe I'm giving him something to eat after he's pooped, so he goes out and he goes to the bathroom, and then now he has a treat ball or something like that. Or as soon as we go to the bathroom, we come back inside the house and we play a game. Or can I, just make sure that we're just adding extra entertainment throughout the day so that we're not so focused on trying to do some other things too. Again, hit or miss as to whether or not that will help if the issue isn't, boredom. But it won't hurt. Entertaining your dog will never hurt. So the other thing that when I was looking at Dr. Karen Becker's website, she's the one that had the link to the new study, is the fecal transplant. So if there really is something going on with their digestive system and their gut and stuff, some dogs have actually been doing some fecal transplants, and that's stopped their poop eating, which obviously is pretty extreme, but my guess is there's some other things going on to make it worthwhile and everything. So, that's always something to look at and consider. And again, I'll throw in the links here and stuff. Jake wears the field guard every time he goes out. Surgery for eating rocks. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and those are the dogs that, again, if we're a risk for, really hurting ourselves, then we definitely want to look at having a mask or leash and that sort of thing. I had not a client, but I used to run play dates, and there was this big, I can't remember the breed, but this big, massive dog. And it ate wood chips. So it was out in the yard. Again, I don't like unsupervised, and I know she doesn't, but unsupervised stuff, because the dog ate a ton of wood chips. So it had to go in and get intestines pulled out and stuff like that, $10,000. And then I saw them again like a year later, and the dog did it again. Still lived, because I still went to the surgery, but it's like, okay, still unsupervised in the yard. So we're still doing these things. Oliver, lap dog. Sweet, sweet Tanya. So that's a little bit about poop eating. So I will go in, if you have any questions, if you want to type them in right now, I can try to answer them, or I can come back and read it. But again, the surefire thing is supervising. Supervising your dog, keeping them on a leash. So even if they're in the yard and we're supervising by watching them, if we're not physically able to get to them really quickly, then, they ate the poop. And then, okay. And every time they do something that we don't want them to do, that's one more time that they've done it, one more learned behavior. So Jake is supervised, but he's so quick. Yep. Vet says he's the worst case of pica he's ever seen. Jake eat the poop too. Jake eats the poop and the stones. And so Jake would be one that I'd be on a leash, so that we can move him around so he's not eating that poop. Is Jake... What do you, I'll go back and read too, but what do you feed Jake? Is he fresh fed or kibble fed or anything like that? Is Jake the Cavalier too? So I remember way back when reading about pica, and this is before Dexter. So, even before I was thinking neurological, but I remember reading, not a poop eater, mostly rocks, leaves, sticks, okay. But I remember reading that there are some neurological issues with that too, some thought process behind that. And then now, flashing back to our Cavaliers, does he have SM? Does Jake have SM too? Again, sometimes it's like one of those, I don't know. And then you always get that, you always get the, I don't know why we're doing this. How do I manage? Sometimes it is a big manage issue versus changing the behavior issue. Like my thunderphobic golden, I was able to help him, but I wasn't able to fix him. Can it run in litters? Is one puppy more likely to eat poop? So Tanya, so they'll definitely learn it. So it can definitely be a learned behavior. So one dog can watch one dog do it and do it as well. My guess is it can run in litters, and the fact that if their gut isn't healthy, so maybe, something with that genetic line, or if they're getting the same food and they're still lacking those enzymes and everything. Jake is 13 years old, Ruby Cavalier. I feed kibble and moist food together. He does not have SM, definitely MVD. So, Patricia, I would look at seeing about adding some of the fresh foods. So even before... I might look at the enzyme powder and probiotics, in the jar kind of things. And again, I'll send some links about how to find one. But I think fresh foods would do well. So that makes me want to say, I might add some of the fresh food enzymic foods in there so that he's getting some fresh food in there. And Jake all the time. And I know you do a lot of rescues, so how long have you had Jake? And has he been with you the whole senior? Any changes since he's a senior? Because there's a lot of changes. Maybe I'll post my link about senior care too. So there's a lot of changes with senior dogs too, with their cognition and their dietary needs and, sleeping throughout the night and everything like that too. I do use Dr. Probiotics. Okay. And I would rotate. So again, rotate them between other probiotics too. When I did my article on probiotics, because again, the probiotics is I like to try to wrap my head around it. So I contacted a bunch of doctory kind of people, and I'll send the link there. But everything's different, so each thing has a different strand and that sort of thing. So that's why they do recommend rotating through different strands and different companies and things like that. And it can be where you have like 3 different jars and you just kind of, this is 1 week or this is every other day. I'm kind of like willy-nilly when I do that. I just get all these things that I like and I just kind of, okay, just so that I'm rotating through it. But yeah, rotate everything, guys. The biggest thing for me is, I don't know if there's one thing that I do besides his Chinese herbs, because I don't know how to rotate anything different, and his medications, but everything else for Dexter is rotated, even the companies that I buy his meat from. I just rotate the heck out of everything. So, all right, anything else? So, I'm gonna sign doctor kind of people say. Yeah, right, doctor. See, this is what happens when I go live. I can't say, what word do I want to have? But what do I want to say? I can't even think of the words that I want to say, but they have their little numbers back there and they deal with microbiologists. That's what it was. It was a lot of microbiologists that I spoke with. Thank you. You made me really think about that. But I'll add some links up there. Keep adding comments. I'm also going to throw in the link or the web address to the poll, because I'm just keeping now. I started the poll one more time. So instead of saying, what do we want to talk about today? I just have a list of ongoing topics, so that it's okay, Lynn. You can hit the rewind. So you'll be able to see it. And you can always type in questions too. But I'll pop in the poll there. Keep filling them out, what you want to talk about. Write comments under it too. You can add your own topics. And so you might want to kind of go back and check the poll every once in a while, because people are adding different poll topics. And you might, that's a really good idea. Because again, I don't want to just pop on here and not know what the heck you guys want to talk about. So you guys have a great Thursday. Thank you, Tanya. And I will see you guys soon. And few minutes, I'll get some links up there and read through comments, and again, keep doing it. So yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the comment or the topic suggestion too. So we'll talk to you soon.